Natalie, thank you for coming and sharing some of your long years practicing, believing, advocating, promoting, coaching, both as a leader in an organisation and now as an executive coach. I'm delighted to host you on this conversation today.
Thank you, Pam. It's lovely to be here.
Talk a little bit about what brought you to the coaching profession.
I think, Pam, it started in my 20s, really, when I was privileged enough to be offered coaching when I was part of the Microsoft organization. And when we got to a certain level in the organization, we had an opportunity to work with a couple of coaches. And I started to work with, I call him my wise Yoda now, Mike Pegg, who was just transformational in helping me think through things, both personally and professionally, and really holding a mirror up to myself about what was important to me. And at the time, I was starting to move into management and managing people. And I found that I really loved the conversations with people about, well, where do you want to go in your career? How do we kind of map your motivations along with what the business needs from you? Or as they were going through personal crisis, work is still part of it, helping them through that. So I guess I discovered I was quite good at it, unwittingly, really, and then started to develop my own qualifications around coaching. And it's been informal, I think, for a lot of years, and then formalized it probably in the last, that makes me sound old, 15, 20 years, to do it more as a proper profession.
And what's been a standout moment for you acting as a coach?
I think the biggest one I recall was actually working with the Prince's Trust. So I went to, it's called the Boxing Academy in Hackney. And there's a lot of young men there that are at risk of full-time exclusion from school.
Mm.
And we were invited to help them with job applications, CVs, etc. And I'd got brushed off all my CV skills and all of that sort of stuff. And actually, I got there, and that wasn't where they needed help, really. It was actually helping them believe in themselves around their own self-belief and how they could use their strengths for good for themselves. And to this day, it remains one of the most powerful days that I've ever done in coaching, both individually and in groups. And also just making me realize the privilege that I've had with my family and my own family growing up, and to see very different aspects, but how coaching can apply to all. It doesn't matter what your background is, where you come from, what work you do, how old you are. It has real relevance that if you actually have meaningful conversations with people, they can be transformative.
What is it that you would say that is in your experience or your background that's given you that sensitivity or capacity to be a good coach?
Oh, there's so many things. I think life experience. So, when people talk to you about things that are going on for them personally or professionally, you have empathy because you may have experienced that. Not that you need to have experienced it, because a good coach will always ask good questions to help you think and reflect around it. But I think it does add a layer of sensitivity to what you're doing. Um, I also I also have a deep passion around mental health. So when I look at the workplaces that many of us are working in today, there is a lot of stress, there is a lot of overwhelm, and I think COVID played a massive role, particularly when I look at the younger people that I'm coaching. They never worked full time in an office before COVID. So this hybrid way of working is what their norm is.
Yeah.
And so suddenly being told to come back 5 days or you must do this is very alien to them.
Mm,
And I think, particularly in some of the agency world, there is a lot of stress and pressure of they haven't resourced perhaps back up the way they did before COVID.
mm,
So I think my passion around that and really helping people get out of that pit
mm.
sometimes of actually how do I manage that? How do I manage my work when I'm feeling like this? So that's a particular thing that I really care about.
Yeah, those some of those micro moments that accumulate around, are you allowed to say no? What's the impact on your career if you say no? If you've got 80 hours of demands on your working week and you've got 40 hours, where do you prioritize and what do you do? And am I allowed to? Do I have permission? What's going to be the cost to me? And all this kind of negative inner script that we work with. And then, for many people now doing more work at home, not having the people around you to normalize and see how you compare and
Yeah,
what you're doing, and that sensitization to, am I good enough? And then people have a preference to think about what they lack or what they miss or where it's broken or what they're not doing. And it's about that capacity to help people rethink, sit, be still, notice what they've done, what they've achieved, what they've brought, what they've got,
yeah.
and find a way to contextualize themselves against other people in work, find the learning, but feel strong. And you can't do that by yourself always, because your self-doubt is a flipping loud voice that can sit on your shoulder and nag away at you.
Absolutely. And I think, that inner critic of ourselves is so strong, and probably one of the things that comes up most in coaching is that kind of negative script that we tell
Yeah.
ourselves all the time. And I'm a big believer around strengths and
Mm.
looking at, what are our strengths? How do we use our strengths more and more? Because if we can use our strengths on a day-to-day basis, then we'll start to spiral up, as opposed to kind of trying to fix our weaknesses and finding
Yeah.
it harder and harder, and then you sort of spiral down. So I'm a firm believer. I kind of call it my CV of success. It's not an actual CV, but working with people to go, actually, let's, look at all the things that you've achieved to get where you are now. So you might feel like you're not in a great place right now, but look at all the things that you've got to this point in your career or this point in your life. And actually, you can sometimes see those aha moments with a client going, oh, yeah, I got this. I've got
Mm.
this. I can do this.
Yeah. It's so nice when you can help people appreciate that the rut that they're in is a moment in time rather
Absolutely.
than who they are. And
Yeah.
it's that differentiation between either time, what's going on around them, maybe a change in strategy or a change in circumstance, and contextualizing it to that and helping people realize actually just what they can do, and what a good conversation does to unblock it. It's like when you've had a really great night out with, a close friend, and you just
Yeah.
feel better for getting it off your chest, that kind of 30 minutes or 60 minutes with a coach to say, this is what work feels like, this is what I've got to get done, and I don't know how to move forward, and finding a way to do that. Have you got one story for me, the people that you've coached as a leader or you working as their coach, that's really kind of a highlight of your coaching?
Yeah, I have. So it was actually, you'll know her, Pam, another lady called Natalie who worked at Radley Elder,
Mm,
who was in my business development team. So I was leading the team at the time. And she was brilliant at her job, but she had such a massive passion around sustainability.
mm,
And we kept talking. She goes, why am I doing this job? What am I doing here? I want to do
mm,
this. I'm never going to be able to make it. And funnily enough, we used a technique that you taught me when you were coaching there. And it
yeah.
was like, let's chunk up what it is that you want. And
Mm,
then let's kind of work back and chunk it down to look at
mm,
all the component parts.
mm,
And we built like this roadmap of how she could get to go and do her master's in sustainability, which she did at Cambridge. So she carried on working at Radley Elder. She
mm,
worked part-time. She worked so hard doing the master's and her day job. And then I think through the masters, her network increased phenomenally, but with the people that were in the field that she wanted.
mm,
So she then left Radley Elder and went to Microsoft in a great role in sustainability. And funnily enough, I met her probably about a year ago. She came to my house here in Norfolk because her dad lives not far away.
mm,
And she had just accepted a huge job at HSBC. And
mm,
she just looked at me and she went, you helped me do that. And I said, well, you did all the work for yourself. We just had some conversations and you kind of made it happen. But I
mm,
think it's that witnessing her journey. And she was almost like pinching herself, just like, I'm just about to go to HSBC and do this amazing job. Who am I to be doing this? And I'm like, well, look what you've done. So it's beautiful when I think with Natalie in particular, because we've stayed in touch and you see the journey and you literally witness somebody flourish and change their life path from what they were doing to doing the work that they love.
Mhm. Yeah, and there's great moments like that where people have done that. But I guess also there's what you love about being a coach is for all of those people that just want to either shift their career slightly, make a change in their personal life, work out a way to set a new set of priorities or to exist differently in either the business that they're in or the way that they perform the job that they're doing.
Yeah.
What would be some of the typical reasons why people would come for coaching with you, Natalie?
There's a real mix of people. So there's people that are career, like I'm at this point in my career. It might be a lot of younger people, like I've sort of fallen into this career. I don't know whether it's right for me. Then there's later career changes, like I've done this for 20 years. I don't know what's next. So there's a lot around career. There's a lot around kind of personal brand of like, actually, what do I want to stand for? How's my impact, my visibility, my influence within an organization? So they're looking at kind of their presence, and we talk about it in a term of personal brand to go, how do I have that impact within an organization?
Mm,
I've had people come to me, as I've mentioned before, with this kind of stress, overwhelm, and anxiety, but it's framing that in a not in a therapeutic way of like, let's really get into what's all that about in your past history. It's much more about how does that show up? How can you kind of self-regulate that in those moments to help you go through what it is that you need to do, and signpost it potentially to other people that might be able to help.
mm,
We have people that come a lot around work life, home life balance. And Sky recently have done a lovely program for people returning from maternity leave. I've been working with a few of them, and to witness kind of that life stage change and what that means for them of just like, well, before I could do all of this, and now I've got to leave and I've got to do that, and just kind of adjusting to their new norm with all of
mm,
those other things that are going on and helping them, make sure they're keeping themselves front and center as well as being a wife, a mother, and somebody at work or a team leader or manager. So all sorts of things that people come with. I think there's never anything too great or too small. It's so much about just having a conversation about whatever is on your mind, whatever's troubling you, something that you're thinking about. And I often call myself, I'm just going to be your thinking partner.
mm.
I'm not going to specifically give you advice about you should do this, you should do this. It's about let's just talk it through, let's reflect, let's discuss, and help you work out what it is that's right for you and what you want to do.
So if somebody's never done something before, they're facing something for the first time. Some people maybe feel nervous about coming to work with a coach because they might feel as though they've got to have some answers to questions, or when actually they're feeling wholly ill-equipped, their back's against the wall. They might even be panicking or feeling extremely anxious that they've been promoted. They don't want to declare that this is the first time that they've faced something like this. What typically would a coach do to help equip someone get on the front foot and feel as though actually there's something positive that they can do or bring?
I think the first thing is we've all been there. We've all been in situations where we are unsure about it, whether it's coaching, whether it's a new role, whatever it might be, that kind of first experience of something. So that being a little bit unsure, and for a lot of people asking for help, and I'll hands up, I was one of those. Was like, I don't want to ask for help. That's, I know, I don't. Is that a sign of weakness in a script going on?
Mm,
So I think it's about just dipping your toe in the water. And through Thrive we have the lovely discovery session, which is that first session where you have and you can explore. And what is wonderful is you don't have to have all the answers. That's the whole point of coming, to create some space to think for yourself. I have
mm,
people come that sometimes just talk at me for half an hour and they go, oh, I feel so much better. And I've maybe asked one question. Then I've
mm.
had other people that, you know, take time and they really sit back and reflect. So, whatever your style is, it's just really important that for me, that I, am patient, I observe, I reflect back, I notice where that person is at, not where I expect them to be or where anyone else might expect them. Where are they at in that moment and what is right for them? And they
Yeah.
can also, through Thrive, you can reach out on the chat. So you could contact a couple of coaches that you think might be right for you, have a chat with them, and see if it's right, then book a discovery session. And I think importantly, sometimes that's anxieties around, who else is going to know? But everything is completely confidential on Thrive, so nothing is shared back around those conversations with the organisation. So it's a very safe place, and I'm sure that all the coaches, really do their best to make people feel safe, secure, and allow people to express their vulnerabilities when they're ready. And if they're not, and they just want to stay at a very top level, that's okay too.
How many sessions do you think someone should book?
I think it's really important to get momentum. So I would suggest 4 sessions to book them in. And if on the first session, for some reason, you don't feel like you've got rapport with the coach, you can always cancel them. So there's no risk to booking the 4, and you can choose to work with somebody else. But I would get the 4 in, get them either every other week or every 3 weeks or so that actually whatever it is that you're working with, whether it's a specific problem, something that you're thinking about, that you can get some momentum and know that. I know all of us are working in this busy, busy time. Oh, I've got no time, I've got no
Yeah.
time. But actually, if you create that 30 minutes or 60-minute space once every couple of weeks to really think on that thing, it's
Mm,
phenomenal what you can actually, how much you can shift in that time frame. And then after that, it can be, more drop-in sessions as you need them, going, oh, actually, something else is coming up. I wouldn't mind chatting to Natalie about that. I'll book at some time in.
mm. And phenomenally, 98% of our clients stay with the coach that they have that first conversation with. And that's testimony to the quality of the coaches that, like yourself, that we work with, that you're business practitioners, being coached yourself, worked internally as coaches, professionally qualified as a coach, and, turned your profession to do it for more people on more occasions, and but still keeping your hand in the business context and doing a business role. So that contextualized, is very empathetic, and it relates to the world of work as we're all sitting in it today. So I know people really value that.
I think it's important to recognize we're all just human beings. I have a coach that I work with, and his sort of tagline for his business is helping people do life better. I love that. It's just exactly what it is about. It's just helping people to do the little things a little bit better because of some intervention that you've talked about, you've talked through, worked it out, reflected on, and it can help build that momentum. But we're all human and we're all dealing with our own stuff. So just because I'm a coach doesn't mean that I'm not having my
Mm.
own challenges and needing coaching with somebody else or some tips to with my own life too.
Yeah, we're not superhumans.
No, not at all.
Maybe got a bit more experience in some areas, and what we bring is an abundance of stories of people that we've coached around what they've done that's worked, what they've done that hasn't worked. It's certainly one of the things that I do in my coaching practice is relay some of that storytelling to other people to help them also think through what they're thinking about implementing, changing, applying, and to get some kind of perspective on whether or not it's going to work for them. Some people don't come to coaching, Natalie, because they just feel vulnerable, they feel nervous, they feel scared, they're worried if they're going to feel judged. Um, how do you create a safe space for people to kind of sit in this relationship and get the benefit from it?
I think for me, I I show up as authentically me. So
Yeah.
I don't try to be anything different. I don't try to put on a face of this is my coaching face. And I think by being authentically me, there is a natural warmth, sensitivity that people, even through a screen, can sense. And we spend a few moments at the beginning of a session talking about what would make sense for them, what's on their mind, what do they want to get from the session. So it's not me directing where we go, it's very much about where they want to go. We go at their pace. So some people will want action, like do this and do this, and what's my plan? Other people having an action may scare them more into a further fear of failure if that's what they're worried about. Well, if I haven't done that, and then I want to please my coach. So it's all about really just being fully present with the person that shows up. And I think the biggest skill is listening,
Mm,
is really listening to what that person needs, not just with your ears, but noticing
Mm,
what's showing up, what's their face telling me, what is their position? Are they hunched? Are they back? Are
mm,
they furrowed brows? So just picking up on all those signs and actually sometimes playing it back to them. So I often coach my clients when they're giving want to give feedback to use the word I notice.
mm,
Very evidence-based. It's not a judgment. It's just, I'm noticing you're much quieter than normal today. Or I'm noticing that you look a little bit more on edge today. Tell me what's going on for you.
mm.
And then people sort of go, oh, and you can visibly see. I'm feeling it now as I explain it that,
Yeah.
and then it flows.
And that's the glorious thing about working with a coach, because you don't have to impress, right?
No.
So we're not someone that's going to do your performance review or agree your pay review or put you on the promotion panel. Of course, we're there to enable and inspire and facilitate and encourage. We're a bit of a cheerleader in that way. So our job is to just sit with you and facilitate and enable and help you think clearly and come up with a plan that will project what you want to achieve, and
Yeah.
facilitate what you want to achieve. But there's very rare, even with your friends want the best for you and they'll talk you into doing things, or, like it's almost as though everybody in life is vested in something, whereas your coach is there to do what you want for
Yeah.
yourself.
And I
Um,
think, as a coach, when I first started coaching, that's hard to then withdraw from, to kind of find
yeah,
that boundary because you are so invested in the person and you care for that person as that relationship develops over those sessions. And then it's just like, okay, I need to, I'm not here to fix you. I think that was the hardest thing, when you first work with somebody, it's like, I want to fix this, I want to make it all better. But actually, it's about resourcing that person to help themselves as much as possible and to find their way forward. And then, as you said, to share our stories, the tools that we have to help people on their journey, wherever that might be.
yeah, yeah. We're lucky, eh? Um, do you have a sense of how long it takes before people start seeing results?
I I think it varies. I have witnessed people have an aha moment in their first session. You can see it. It's like, that's it, done. Doesn't mean they don't want some more coaching, but you can see that the penny has dropped and that's where they want to go and that's what they're going to do. And then they kind of come back, check in and go, right, I'm on this, I'm going to do this. What's next? So there's momentum very quickly. For other people, it can take a few sessions because it's around allowing them to reflect and really think for themselves. And I think particularly when it's a more emotionally entrenched belief about themselves that, may have built up over many, many years. We've all got them. And how to kind of work and reshape, reframe that belief about themselves. And when that work is done, so that's kind of like the real, I call it like the preparation work.
Yeah.
And then it's the, okay, actually, now I believe that that's possible.
When I was working at Radley's with you, one of the things that you were a real positive advocate all around the business around how to self-coach, how to use coaching and the methodology of leadership and day-to-day working practice. So I'm hoping this question is going to be one that you'll bring one of your pearls of wisdom to. But if people want to do some self-coaching or just start thinking like a coach, what do you recommend, or one or two questions, or a tool or a technique? What's something people do to be more coach-like themselves for themselves?
So I think there's two things that come to mind. One is a kind of self-awareness observation, and another is a tool.
Mm.
So hopefully I'll hit whatever people their
Okay.
way of working. So I think the first thing is to really notice yourself,
Mm.
and being self-aware. So kind of what is your norm, and when are you noticing that you move away from your norm? Like, am I feeling a bit more stressed today? And then ask themselves the question, what's that about? So just noticing and being curious about whatever that feeling or thought is that is changing from their norm and just noticing it. And then the simple question, what's that all about then? You might not have the answer, but what's it all about? What am I doing? Why am I thinking that? So asking a good open question to yourself, and I like the what questions. What's that all about? And really just being curious, and then getting into your own kind of reflection space. Then the other one is more of the model, which I think all of us at Thrive use as a way. And at Radley Elder, we used it not just as a coaching mechanism, but in meetings, which is was transformational, which is the grow model. So actually, what is my goal? Where do I want to get to? And really spending time on that, because I think that's the biggest part of the grow model of the goal. Actually, let's be really concrete, because otherwise I might just faff off somewhere else and then go, oh, that was wrong. I got the wrong goal. So really spending time on that. Then the R is the reality. You know, what's my current reality? And I quite like that as my venting stage of just like, just get it all out, just get it all out there. And then going, okay, well, what options do I have? Which is the O. And I think when exploring options, what I say to people is don't think about what's possible. Just put the options down there. Whether you believe in it as an option or not, just do it, because it might be hard, but it still might be possible. So then exploring those options, and often I then start to weight up those options of like, oh, what's the pluses and minuses of each of those? And then the W is actually, what am I going to do? When am I going to do it? Who do I need to help me? So I think it's a really lovely structure that you can apply to yourself. You can apply to someone that you're just having a one-to-one with session. You can do it as we did at Radley Elder in team sessions. And by goodness, did it change the value of a team meeting to be much more on point and have some structure. So for those people that like structure, the Grow model is great.
And that generating options, I wonder whether if some people kind of go, oh, what's the point in that? But the point of it is if you just go with the first one or two things that come to mind, they're often the things that you've used loads of times before and are no longer working for you. And so the reason why it's important to do that bit of a brainstorm and say, well, what else could I do? And what is someone else trying? Just lingering a little bit longer than the first two obvious things, it does open your mind. And I guess that's what also a coach does with you. It helps you think more broadly than the traps or the habits that you use day in, day out that
Yeah.
maybe need a bit of updating or shifting or renewing to be able to get the impact that you want in the world.
Definitely, because I've seen people, when we do the options, and the option first one is, well, I need to stay where I am. And you're like,
Yeah,
well, that stays in the stuckness of what it is.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
what's a variation on that? And what else? And what else? And I,
yeah,
it's almost like the tip of the iceberg is what comes and presents in a coaching session. And then as you go through, you start to get much deeper into the iceberg of actually what is it
yeah,
and what else is there and what does that mean and what other options do I have?
yeah.
And it's, that's the absolute joy of coaching, is to witness people's own thinking and own resourcefulness to take them where they want to go.
This may be obvious to the people that are listening to our conversation, Natalie, but what keeps you motivated and inspired to be a coach?
People, absolutely people, the connection with people, the joy that you witness when people create the world that they want to create when they come to you, the stories that people tell. And actually, just this morning I've had the most beautiful email from somebody
Mm,
that I coached many many years ago, just saying, I don't know if you ever realized that moment in time and what that meant for me.
mm,
And I'm just kind of reaching out to say thank you.
mm,
And it must be 10 years ago that that
mm.
person was coached by me.
Yeah, it happens, doesn't it? Right? You kind of have these conversations, and people they remember one line or one conversation of something that's absolutely been life-changing.
Yeah,
You remember it for all of your life.
yeah,
I think that's the most remarkable thing about coaching is you sit with a stranger
yeah.
highly skilled in creating shift, change, exploration, validation, and change. And something happens when you really sit in that relationship, and they're lifelong lessons that
Yeah.
usually you only really expect to get from your parents or from a boss that you've worked with for a long time. But these are 8 or 10 conversations that hold lifelong learning for you.
Yeah, that it's a privilege, and I genuinely mean this. It's a privilege for somebody to share their stuff with
Mm,
you,
mm,
open up their world, their inner world to you.
Mm.
mostly through a computer screen these days.
Yeah.
And it's, just watching people go on their journey
Yeah.
is joyful. And I remember I told you, Mike, my old mentor. There's so many lines that I remember, but the one line that I always remember is there's choices and there's consequences, Natalie. And
Yeah.
I remember using that with my own children as they were growing up, and that they were like, I'm going, well, there's choices here, children, and there's consequences to which choice you make. And so that it's sort of passed down the generations now and I know it's a small thing, but it's true. And you're just like going, actually, yeah, what are the consequences of this choice? What else do I need to take into account as I'm doing this? But so many one-liners from him.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing, isn't it? Because the coach brings a wake-up call or brings a leadership lesson or a motto that's born out of years of coaching very many people. And that's what's glorious about working with people like yourself. We're all experienced coaches, experienced leaders, and it's not that we've been there, done it, worn the t-shirt, but we've got a collection of inspirations that we've gained from our clients that we've worked with, from what they've shared, because they hold the mirror back to us, don't they? And we learn
Absolutely.
from them as well as us inspire them. And it's that collection of profound conversations that we're able to share and impart, and hopefully give people a compass that carries them through the next stage of whatever it is that they want.
And I think it's so true about that mirroring back. I'm
Mm,
often, even after all these years, surprised when, somebody shows up and they share their story and you go, oh my God, that's exactly what I've been going through. Or that's exactly what's happening to me at that point in my life.
yeah,
And it is those moments of like, wow.
yeah,
It is, and it does hold that mirror back to yourself. And, I always reflect on my sessions after a session. What did I take from that? What can I learn from that? What could I have done
yeah,
better? What really worked?
yeah,
And my own kind of feelings and sentiments about it, because we're always dealing with our own stuff too.
yeah.
Um,
There's nothing finer than a moment of self-indulgence. And people go to the gym or they go to the spa, and they're momentary periods of pleasure, but the moments with your coach stay with you forever. And we're lucky, right? We're lucky to
yeah,
have found this space and to be able to work with our people, in the way that we do. I'm incredibly grateful for you sharing your insight, Natalie. I'm sure that our clients will take a lot of inspiration from your words of kind of life as a coach and your experience of being coached. I'm thankful for you sharing it with everybody.
thank you, Pam.